Hello everybody, thanks for joining me today for this new webinar where we're going to talk about how you can accelerate your digital transformation using the new version of Bonita. So my name is Lionel Palassin and I'm a technology evangelist for Bonita Soft. I've been working with Bonita Soft for about 5 years now, first as a technical consultant, which gave me the opportunity to work on a lot of different customers, building application on top of Bonita. And now I'm working as a technology evangelist, which give me the opportunity to basically share everything I learned with the community, the customers, the partners, on my experience with Bonita. So the session is being recorded. It will be shared with you at the end of the session. If you have any question, don't hesitate to just type them in the GoToWebinar tool. And at the end of the session, I will take time to answer all of them. Actually, I want to keep the session relatively short, so you have a lot of time to ask any questions. So digital transformation related to the business process management industry. I think I'd like to start first to do like a little bit of focus on the BPM world and what is mostly used and how we see it evolve today and how is it related to the digital transformation that business are today experiencing. It's basically the BPM was and is still mostly used to describe processes. So really, companies are trying to identify their critical processes inside their company and use and apply BPM concept to optimize those processes. But we see now that more and more business are using the same concept and extending it to actually build a complete business application that provide real user experience to either internal users or external users that give them the opportunity to basically launch new products, offer new services for these users. And that's why the Bonita BPM platform today is evolving in that direction as well. Our main core component, it's obviously the business process management. But more and more, we add tooling layers to create a complete development environment that give the ability to developers to apply this business process management concept, but actually build a complete business application. So by example, in the version 7 of Bonita, we added a main component, which is called the UI designer, which gave the ability for front-end developers to build rich and engaging UI on top of the processes they were designing using the BPM methodology. So now we see like more and more, still based on the process-oriented approach, we managed to provide a complete framework to build business applications. So how is it related to the digital transformation? From my opinion, we see like two different sides today in digital transformation. One is more on the operational side in the business, where they would like to optimize specific processes they identify in their business. So that's usually the core of their business. And they would like to streamline the processes, identify where are the bottlenecks, optimize the resources used by the processes, automate some of the tasks, generate report to really being able to fine tune the process in order to improve the efficiency of this process and increase at the end of the day the margin of their business. So we see, by example, within our customers base. By example, we have a pharmaceutical company in the US that heavily used Bonita BPM to basically coordinate the work of the different team who work in labs, basically, and those teams will see their task orchestrated by tools such as Bonita BPM using the BPM methodology, and the system they're using, we will orchestrate them using also the process layer, which gave them the opportunity to be more efficient working together and basically focus and spend more time on developing and testing medical treatments instead of synchronizing between each other internally. And that's a good example for me on the operational side. But now, another aspect of the digital transformation for me is a strategic aspect. Today, the business is evolving pretty rapidly, and business need to quickly jump on new opportunities. They want to launch new products, offer new services, either internally to their internal users or externally to create basically new business. And for that, they need platform to build quickly business application. And this is where we see more traction today, and platforms such as Bonita BPM have a pretty big role to play. And we are already in a good position. We already have projects with customers who are relying on platforms such as Bonita BPM to quickly release new business applications. By example, we have a university in New Zealand that basically built a new application for their students and their teachers to synchronize and help basically and drive students to choose their best selection of courses for themselves. So here we see like we're gonna optimize basically the user experience for the students and the teacher, and that will basically increase the student satisfaction, the teacher satisfaction, that will raise eventually the level of success globally of their students, and so on. A few words on our mission. We like to say internally, or even to our community, that when you want to build a new business application, sometimes you need custom development, but usually you don't. What do we mean by that? Is we think that we reach a point where there is enough tool out there to basically build quickly business application without the need to start from scratch. And that's what we offer with the Bonita BPM platform. We try to provide a platform with a set of services that the developer will be able to reuse. So, by example, we give them a framework, guidelines, and best practices to describe the logic of an application through the business process management approach. And we'll give them graphical tool, assistance, and so on in the product to speed up the development. We will also provide like tool around the design for to build engaging and rich UI, and so on. But within all these tools, we also know that to build business application that will fit the exact need for the business users and that will drive good adoption within those users. Those applications need to be personalized, customized, and performant. So that's why we provide a lot of flexibility in the way you can build applications. So you will find a lot of extension points or modularity in the platform. So you will be able to actually change completely one component or another if it doesn't fit your requirements within the platform. And that's why we talk about low-code approach, because we don't aim to have a complete no code where you will get a pre-configured application and you just have to configure it to fit it in your environment and then use it. But in that case, you will need to adapt your way of working with that new application. Or we don't also think that development can be done by business users. Reach a point today where the level of customization, interoperability with other systems, configuration, fine-tuning, the need for scalability. Here we're talking business applications that's going to be potentially used by hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of users. And performance, all of those requirements need to be addressed, we think, by technical team, and they need to be involved early in the process. And that's where Bonita BPM can offer a good support, where early on in the development process, the development team and the business team will be able to exchange on, by example, business logic. They will be able to exchange on process diagram to see here is what the process is going to do. Here's who is going to work on which task. Here is when the process will reach out to this external system to push data or to pull data, and so on. And the last aspect of one of our big goal is to basically allow business application to be quickly modified and improved based on users' feedbacks, developer feedbacks, or business change. That's what we call continuous improvement. Basically, when you build a first version of a business application, you release it to your end users. The first version is never the final version. And you want a platform that is flexible enough to quickly modify it, releasing a new version. And that can be on any aspect of the application. It can be on the logic part, it can be on the UI part, it can be in the integration part with other systems, it can be on the business rules part, it can be on the data model, reports, and so on. So any aspect of the application should be independent and should be easily updated. And that's basically one of our key features, to really give the ability to developers to quickly modify and monitor the application built on Bonita. So how do we do that? We introduced actually in the 7.0 in June 2015 the concept of a living application. The living application for us is a business application that will continuously change, improve, and adapt according to your business changes, users' feedbacks, and so on. So to be able to never be stuck with one application and give us enough flexibility to modify it, we came up with that approach where we separate the logic from the data from the user interface. If you have a developer background, you're probably familiar with the MVC pattern, which is model, view, controller pattern. And we basically approach the implementation of the application using the same pattern, where the controller In our case, it's going to be the business logic. So that's really the controller of the application. That's where the business logic is implemented. And this is where the BPM methodology will be applied. So you will design processes to implement the business logic of your application. So it can be one process, it can be a set of processes, it can be sub-processes called by user processes, and so on. Those processes will be the one who interact with external systems. So you can have a CRM, you can have an ERP internally, you can have a database where you want to pull data. And to connect to those external systems, the processes will use what we call the connectors. Connectors, it's basically a piece of code that can be executed at any point in time in the process. We will also have scripts and business rules. So basically, you will have gateways to make decision on which route you want to go in your process based on a dynamic rule that you can basically code. You also want to be able to define who is in charge of which part of your process. So for that, we have the notion of actors. So we'll say this task will be managed by this part of the organization. This task will be handled by this specific user because that and that happened in the process. So you will actually implement a dynamic rule for assignment. Your process will be able to behave on external events or internal events, and then you can parameterize the application to change dynamically the behavior of your processes. So this logic, without anything else, won't be really useful unless you want what we call headless application. It means you just, by example, want to orchestrate different systems. That's totally doable, and we have customers who does that. For example, I think we have an electric company in the US that manage the orchestration of different systems using just a process. So the process will be just here to basically start on one event and then pull data, push data, and call different systems, all automated without any human interaction. So in that case, it's only process-based. But you're not stuck with just doing that. That's the core of your application. If you want to make it more rich, here are the other components that actually compose a real living application. Second one then is the business data. Your process probably needs to store data, modify data, and generate data. That we call the business data. So we provide the modeler where you can define your data model and you can create business objects, and those business data will be modified and managed by your processes. And then the last component is going to be the user interface. So here, that's where you're going to define basically the user experience with your application. So it will be a set of processes form processes and application pages. So basically, you will have form where you enter information and submit tasks, create new cases. You will have pages where you actually display a report of data from the business data, by example. You will have personalized menu to navigate between the different pages. And all of that has been built with the constraint that today user expects a certain level of quality in the user experience. Today's any users can be internal user, business user, external users are pretty familiar with web systems. So they will spend a lot of time on internet. They will use a lot of application on their mobile phone. They will use a lot of application on their computer, on their iPad, and so on. So we cannot really make any compromising here. We have to provide user interface that meet their requirements. So that's where we came with the UI designer, which basically provide the ability for front-end developers to build UI using the state of art of web development today, which is AngularJS and Bootstrap. So you can build responsive application and pretty good looking application. So to build the Living App, we have different components in the platform. The first one is a business process studio. So it's a graphical editor, so it's a desktop application that you can download from the Bonita website and you can install. And basically, within that platform, you will be able to build a complete Living application. So the first thing you will build is the logic. So you will be able to graphically draw the design of your process using the BPM and 2.0 elements from that palette on the left. You will just drag and drop them. You will configure each single task. By configure, I mean decide who is in charge of this task, decide what data is managed by this task, and what happens when you enter the task, what happens when you submit the task, and so on, basically. You will also be able to connect this task to external system using a library of connectors, and so on. Within that same studio, you will also be able to model your data model. So we have a tool called the business data model within the studio where you will describe your data model and connect your data model with the processes. If you don't want to use the business data model, it's fine. You can also directly connect to a database using connectors and pull the data directly in the studio. The studio is obviously in the teamwork edition, ready for collaborative development. So we have features in the studio to share the repository through different teams so they can collaborate on the same applications. So in 7.5, we actually added a new menu where you can actually now implement directly the application in the studio. So under the development menu, we added an entry to create a new application descriptor. And this application descriptor, you will be able to edit it in the studio, describe the different entry menu for this application, describe which pages is linked to which menu, and start the application directly from there and deploy the application directly from there. Let me see if I have a quick example for you. Just gonna stop this and come here. So here I have my Bonita BPM 7.5, and in the development part here, you can see the application descriptor, and I can open one. Here I have my employee app, and you see like directly in the application, directly in the studio, I can edit it. I can have multiple applications directly in the same descriptor, and I can access the application. And when I try to access the application, the studio will automatically deploy every single page that composes this application and open the application for me. So that's a really simple application here created in to display and create new employees. Customized and responsive application. As I said, people today expect high-level quality user interface and user experience. Now it's not only a matter of making user interface looks good. He has to be intuitive. He has to be ergonomic. He has to be efficient. He has to be performant. He has to be responsive, meaning that he needs to work not only on my laptop, but I can also access it from my mobile phone. So all those constraints have been taken in account when we build the new version of Bonita. And we basically came up with this idea of the UI designer. So you will be able to basically draw your either your forms or your reports and create the same way of form or report using the UI designer. So the UI designer, you can see it here on the left screen, come with a set of widgets, and you can drag and drop directly in your forms. You can preview to see how it's gonna look like when it's gonna be executed, and so on. So let me give you a quick example here. I can come in my UI designer, and I can open any form, create new employee, and here we see we have a form to create a new employee, to enter the first date, last name, birth date. I can preview that form, see how it's actually gonna look like on a computer, on an iPhone, on a small device. So I can quickly switch back and forth to see how the widget will react, basically. And here I have like a list of all the widgets that are available. I can just drag and drop them to add new ones. I can come here and configure all the information about this specific widget. I can add data and variables to my form. Another key element of the platform is the ability, as I said, to quickly modify and improve the applications built with Bonita. That's what we call the live update and continuous improvement. So it happens a lot of time that when you deploy the application is running, that you have to change something internally. By example, in your organization, you will have constant change in a big organization. By example, a customer of us is an insurance company, and they build an application on Bonita to basically process all the requests that come from their customers. And they were using paper-based approach before, and now they're using Bonita to basically process all those requests. So different teams have different actions for each single request. The issue here is sometimes you will have one team that is either overload, or you will have one of the team members that is either sick or is in holiday, but you already have a lot of tasks to process. Or how do you basically modify the configuration of your application quickly to handle that? So that's one of the live update approach here, using either a parameter or just modifying the organization in the Bonita portal. So without redeploying anything, we'll be able to either reassign a bunch of tasks to someone else or add new team members to a specific group who are in charge of a specific list of tasks. And this new team member will automatically see all the tasks that are assigned to this team. So we'll be able to quickly change team member within the organization to handle the load. We have other examples like that. Maybe you have modified one of your external system. Maybe you were using Salesforce internally, and you modify where the Salesforce is located, so all the URL credential change, and you need to modify your application, so you can quickly come and modify the way the connectors are connecting to Salesforce. That's our small changes. If you want to have bigger changes, by example, this report here is not displaying enough details now from your manager, and you want to add a new widget to display other information. Instead of redeploying the entire application, you will be able to modify only this page. So you will redeploy only this page. And if you want to go even further, you can also modify forms to a specific process. So when you create, when you are running a case and you realize that the form, a specific task, is not asking the right data, you will be able to change the forms, and you will be sure that the process will still work thanks to the notion of contract that we put in place that basically abstract the front end from the back end. So basically, this contract notion describe what is expected from the front end to execute a specific task. So when you describe your process, when you describe the task of a process, you know what you will get from the front end, so you can work with that, and the front end has to provide those data to make a specific task. So thanks to this concept of contract, you can interchange business process and user interface at will without the risk of breaking the flow of the execution. And finally, even the scripts inside the process can be updated. So if you have a Groovy script that describes a business rule within a business process, and that rule needs to be updated, and you don't want to redeploy the entire process, you can come in the portal and just patch this specific script to update your process without interrupting the flow of your processes. So we see there is a lot of aspects where the application can be patched, modified. It can be a big modification. It can be an entire screen. It can be a really small modification like a parameter. But we try to cover every aspect of the application. It might not feel completely straightforward right now, but with practice, that really help the day-to-day management of an application deployed and available for end users. Another big part of the Bonita platform is a monitoring tool. So basically, we provide a view within the portal for the administrator and process manager to see how the platform is behaving. So it will be able, within single view, to see what are the cases in failure. You can drill down to one single process to see what is the one with the most case in failure. In that case, we can see like case management actually failing a lot. It will be able to come in any cases and reassign tasks or execute himself tasks. So we try to give the power for the administrator to unstuck any users, any processes. We also provide a graphical tool to see within one single process where the process execution is currently at, where is it failing, what are the paths that has been taken, and so on. So with one quick view, we'll be able to see what is happening in the process flow. As I said, it's also a platform that is easily extensible. from two different aspects. So on the backend side, here is a view of the studio on the left side. We will provide tools and framework to extend any part of the application, but from industrialized way. We don't just provide small editors to patch existing customer. We actually provide real framework to industrialize new connectors or new REST API extension. So in that case, we see the editor for new REST API extension. So you will be able to build within the studio a new project that will describe a new REST API extension. So you will give what is the endpoint. You will describe the logic using either GrooveScript or Java code. And you will deploy it in your portal, and your pages and form will be able to use it. And same thing with connectors. If you need a new connectors, if one of the connectors is not provided by default, you can use the tooling provided in the studio to build your own connectors. And on the front-end side, we came up with the same concept. We knew that eventually the widget that we're providing won't cover all the use cases that our customers and users can come up with. So we build what we call the custom widget editor. So you basically, with knowledge of AngularJS and Bootstrap, you will be able to build your own custom widgets. So with each single version of Bonita, we try to add new widgets. By example, with the 7.5, we added new widgets to manage the date and time. So now you have two widgets for that. You have one, which is a date picker to manage only dates without the time component. And you have a date time picker that will manage the dates and the time. For the same widget, you will be able to say if yes or no, you want that widget to be reflecting the local time zone of your browser. We came up with this new system to basically handle all the common use cases around date and time management. So if you're interested to know more about this date and time management, I will suggest to go to our release notes, and you will see a lot of examples how to build applications and how to handle a specific use case related to date and time management. But again, if you're not finding the specific widget that fits your need, you can build your own. So you will build the template, which is the HTML part, so the view part, the controller part using AngularJS, so the logic of your widget, or the properties. You can add dependencies to your process, to your custom widgets, and then use that custom widget in any pages, and you can share it with other developers in your team. Before I open for question, I'd like to give you an overview of the architecture of the Bonita BPM platform. So in the middle, that's really the core of the platform is the Bonita BPM engine. So he is the one in charge of executing the process. He's the one in charge of data consistency. He will keep writing and reading data from the Bonita BPM engine database and the BDM database. So please note here that the two databases are completely separated. And the Bonita BPM engine, in addition of that, has other services. So we have services for user management. So Bonita platform has its own organization of users, group, and team. So you can create new users, you can delete new users. We also have a tool, so it's an external tool to synchronize the Bonita organization with any LDAP directory that you might have in your company. So if you have already a LDAP directory that you're using and you don't want to recreate all the users in Bonita, you can just use that tool and you will synchronize all or part based on filters of your user base to Bonita. The user needs to be in Bonita to be used in the process. Another service of the platform will be the connectors. So we have by default a library of connectors to send emails, to connect to database, to pull and push data, to connect to LDAP directory to get information, to connect to ERP, by example, SAP, to connect to CRM like Salesforce. We also rely a lot on open standards. So we have connectors to call a REST API, either in get, post, delete, put action. We have a REST API, a connector to call a web service. So using either proprietary connectors or open standard connectors, you should be able to connect to pretty much any system out there. And again, if the connector that you are looking for doesn't exist, you can write your own. Then the engine will expose a set of APIs, so Java, JB, web service, and you can integrate your own application using those API. Or what we recommend now is more to rely on the REST API where you can build where the Bonita portal is actually using. So you can query and control basically the Bonita BPM engine using the REST API. And if you don't have REST APIs that fit your needs, you can create your own using the REST API extension tooling that we provide. We also have identity service that are not described here, but on the Bonita portal, you can use the default authentication service that will check the password in the local organization, or you can delegate the authentication to external service using a single sign-on solution. So by example, we have a CaaS module, so you can integrate Bonita with any CaaS solution. And in 7.5, we released a new module for the SP edition to connect to a SAML 2.0 identity provider. So if you are a customer and you go on the customer portal, on the knowledge base, you will see a tutorial to actually describe how to enable SSO with a Salesforce instance. So you will use Salesforce instance as the identity provider, and Bonita will delegate the authentication directly to Salesforce. You can also go to the documentation of Bonita Soft. We have plenty of resources to explain how to enable SSO using SAML 2.0. And on that note, I will actually open for questions if you have any. But first, thanks for your attention, and I will open for question. So I have a question here. Does Bonita BPM support Aurelia JS framework? So unfortunately, I'm not familiar with Aurelia JS framework, but I can maybe answer the question for React. I know React JavaScript. I think it's probably familiar. It's probably a framework to build UI. Yes, you can use basically any framework to build user interface that will integrate with the Bonita application. In that case, you won't be able to build or to design the forms using the UI designer, because the UI designer will generate AngularJS that the technology is used for. But you can completely create your own user interface that will integrate. If I go back to the architecture format, that will be in that case your existing portal will integrate Bonita using the REST API. So you'll have somewhere your application that integrates with the process of Bonita. And you can do a mix, and you can have part of the application built with completely Bonita and in the Bonita portal, and part of your application somewhere else, or integrated through iframe in the application using a different framework. So I have another question. Is the community version for evaluation purpose only? Can we go in production with the community edition? So the community version is it's an open source version also, so it's free. It's available for download, and there is pretty much no restriction on it. You can use in terms of time, you can use it as long as you wish. As far as going in production with it, I wouldn't recommend it. I think for me it's more a developer or maybe small projects version, because it doesn't offer the performance that the SPE edition is offering. There is no support on the community edition if something goes wrong. You don't have like features like cluster enablements in case you need like high availability platform. You don't have collaborative development features and so on. So there is a lot of features that are missing in the community edition and are available in the SP edition that will make it, I think, a little bit maybe a little bit risky to go in production if it's for a large project, definitely. I have another question. Is there a list of evolution somewhere for each version? Yes, we have a release note on the documentation website. So here, if you go documentation.bonitasoft.com, for each version, you have a release note. So here is the 7.5. If I go to 7.4, I have a release note 2, 7.3, and so on. So 7.5, if you're interested, you can see that actually 7.5.1 already been released with a bunch of fixes. And here are all the fixes in 7.5. And before that, we have all the features and technology updates in 7.5. By the way, just a word on the Java 8 support. Starting on 7.5, we compile the studio and the portal using Java 8, which means that the 7.5 cannot be run, can be operated on Java 7, which I don't think is a big deal because the support of Java 7 has been ended in April 2015, I think. So it's been almost 2 years now. It's been 2 years. So I'm pretty sure everybody is using Java 8 nowadays. And it actually brings a lot of benefits. So the R&D team now can benefit from all the features brought by Java 8, such as the new way to manage date and time. If you're familiar with Java, you probably know there was a lot of limitation in Java 7 when it comes to manage especially time with time zone support. And they made a lot of improvements in Java 8, so we actually benefit from those improvements. We re-implemented the way to manage date and daytime. But they also, so that's for the R&D, it's pretty interesting, but also for the developers who build application in Bonita, they can now use the Java 8 syntax in specific APIs. So, by example, if the process has to manage a lot of data, one interesting new features in Java 8 is the streams. So you can basically go through a collection of objects using the stream interface and apply a specific function for each single element in your collection. And you can do that with a single thread, or you can process your collection using parallel threading, which makes the performance way better. So that's one of the new features that I really like in Java 8, and I wanted to share it with you. Another question is, what kind of database do you support? So in the studio, we come up with a H2 database that you can actually come and browse here directly. So it's a relational database in memory, but that's for development purpose only. When you come to deploy a Bonita instance for development, testing, QA, pre-production, and production, you will want to connect to a real database. And basically, we support relational database. So we have MySQL, Postgre, SQL Server, and I'm probably missing one, Oracle something. Forgot the last one, but in any case, you can go to the documentation website. I'll show you, and you have a part for hardware support, hardware and software support. So here you have all the databases that are Oracle. Yeah, all the databases are supported by Bonita. Sounds good. If I don't have any other question, I will then close the session. I want to thank you again for attending this webinar today. I hope you learned something today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I will share with you the recording really soon. On that note, I wish you a great day or great evening, depending where you are in the world, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.